Hey guys, Dr. Kyle Loveless here. Hey, today I'm going to talk to you about psoriasis and the top 5 foods that I'm going to recommend taking out of your diet when it comes to wanting to heal your body of psoriasis, not cure it. I don't like that word. Cure, I think, is not a, and I know it's kind of a misconception that you're not going to cure your body of an autoimmune disease. You're going to knock it out to where your body's not over responding and its immune system, and then the psoriasis will go away, but you could be more susceptible to it coming back. So I don't like to use that word lightly. Okay, so I shot a video on this about 2 years ago and it got a lot of views, and but I also got some flack because instead of 5 foods, I think I had like 8 on there because I just kept going, because there's so much things that really do create inflammation in our diet, and I just kind of went through all those, but I kind of revised it. So if you've watched that video, this is hopefully going to be quick and simple and to the point in relation to that one. And please go back and watch, my story about psoriasis and how when I was 4 years old, I've had psoriasis since that point until about age 34. I'm about to be 40 now, and I no longer have psoriasis. It was all over my elbow, my scalp. And I got to a point where I was so tired of taking the medications, and this is kind of embarrassing, but I actually got to a point when I was in high school that I actually burned this area of my elbow just so I wouldn't have to put cream on every day, and the psoriasis would actually disappear for a while. I know it's embarrassing, but that just as you know, it's very embarrassing to look at psoriasis, but it's itchy and it's uncomfortable. So that's what I did. Don't do that. Okay, when it comes to psoriasis, 5 things, okay? Remember, psoriasis is a gut issue. It's an autoimmune response typically coming from digestive problems, whether it's foods you've eaten over the years, not enough good bacteria, or inflammatory bowel issues, whatever that might be, and go back and watch the video on what psoriasis is. 5 foods. Number 1 food I'm going to recommend, and this is across the board, and I know some people have a lot of trouble with this because they've been told wheat and whole grains are good for you, but gluten is going to be the one thing that I think everybody, and I know everybody needs to remove. We all respond negatively to it. And you can say, well, I'm not sensitive to gluten, I'm not sensitive to wheat, I don't have an allergy to wheat. Yeah, you might have not had an allergy or even a sensitivity on an IgG test or an IgE test to wheat. However, the gluten protein, when it goes into our body sees it as this kind of gummy substance, which creates an immune response. Our gut releases something called zonulin, which is an immune factor that causes the gut lining to gap opening, right, which literally creates a permeable gut or a leaky gut. And so then proteins now have the ability to get into the bloodstream. Those proteins get in the bloodstream. Your body sees them as a foreign invader, even though they're a food, but they're not broken down. So it's a protein in the bloodstream. And in return, it creates an immune response. And this makes us susceptible to autoimmunity eventually over time with this problem. Okay, so gluten causes inflammation. It's kind of like if you eat gluten every day, it's like a chronic infection. Your body's always trying to have to get rid of it. So everybody, I'm telling you right now, this is the one change. Whether if you take gluten out and you don't see anything change, keep the gluten out because it's better for your health overall, and it's part of the answer. Second, okay, gluten's number 1. Number 2, okay, number 2 thing I'm going to recommend is sugar. Okay, and obviously we know that sugar is bad for us, but it creates a lot of inflammation, especially the white sugar. It's been tossed around in a warehouse. It's been so refined. Our body just creates this massive inflammatory response to it, and it's bad for our insulin levels. Our insulin sensitivity over time gets worse, and then we end up getting other health issues, which also lead back to these autoimmune problems. So reducing the amount of sugar and preservatives. I know that's 2 in 1. I know I said 5. Don't get mad at me for doing 6, because sugar and preservatives, I'm putting them together because they're both very important. But reducing the preservatives in your food, because again, these are things our body isn't used to having, isn't supposed to have in it, and it creates autoimmune issues, especially if we have gut issues in the first place. And it creates gut issues because it kills and hurts our microbiome. All kinds of other issues can come from it. So reducing the amount of sugar in your food. And I'm not talking about just fructose, I don't have tons of fructose, but apples and things like that. I'm not talking necessarily about that, but the refined sugars or just straight, sugar that you're eating. So number 2 is sugar. Okay, so we got gluten, we got sugar. Next on the list is the bad fats. Okay, and when I say bad fat, fat is good for you. Saturated fat's good for you. A lot of these good fats out there that have been demonized over the years are essential for our body. I always say a woman's breast milk is 50% saturated fat. Most of our brain is saturated fat. Our cell wall, right? We need saturated fat. It's actually very healthy for us, okay? But there are bad fats, and these are the fats that have been oxidized, that have been denatured, that have been hydrogenated, partially hydrogenated. These are things like vegetable oil, canola oil. These are things like safflower oil. A lot of these oils that they put into our foods are really turning to trans fats when they get into our body and creates an inflammatory response. Anything that creates inflammation like that is going to have a negative impact on your immune response, set you up for things like autoimmunity with psoriasis, or just making your psoriasis worse. Go in the comments below, the description below. I'll have a link for good fats versus bad fats PDF, okay? You just click that link. You don't have to give me your email address or anything like that to get it. Just click on your link. I know people don't like to give out their email address. Click on the link, it'll take you straight to the PDF, and now you print that off, put it on your fridge, and when you go to the grocery store and you're looking at your ingredients list, stay away from the fats on the bad fat side, okay? And go with the good fats. So I won't go too much more into that. So that's number 3, bad fats, reducing those. Number 4 is dairy. And I know that dairy is a food that, you know, God put on this planet for us to eat it. And one of my nutrition rules is if God created it and it's here for us to eat, we can eat it. And if man altered it, don't eat it. And well, this is the instance where with dairy, man has altered it, okay? And so I know a cow produces milk and that's natural. Unfortunately, milk has been pasteurized, hydrogenated. It's very broken down, and when that high heat process kills the enzymes that helps us break down the sugar and the lactose and other things in milk, and so it's really hard for our body to digest it. So it just creates a kind of a digestive nightmare. Not to mention, most of our milk is going to be very high in antibiotics. Very high, because the cows are just sitting in one place, they're being fed junk, they get tons of bacterial issues, and they have to pump them full of antibiotics. And it's going to have a lot of hormones and other things. So you can go organic, I guess that's better, but you're still getting this pasteurized milk. So, and I know, yes, you can get raw, you get raw from a grass-fed cow, that's going to be better. The best is going to be more of like a goat or a sheep's milk. And that's because the protein is easier for humans to digest. It's more close to our kind of makeup than necessarily than a cow. You know, takes this little bitty calf to this massive cow and like that. So, but if you don't, we don't have to have dairy, and there's some benefits I get it from kefir and things like that, but you don't have to have it. So I would just say take dairy out, at least while you're trying to get to this process, going through this process of figuring out what's going to help you reduce your psoriasis. Number 5 is, oh, I got there. Number 5 is, and I didn't say this in my original one, even though it's something I teach a lot. I actually put a lot of patients with autoimmune disease on the Plant Paradox diet, which talks a lot about nightshades and lectin and trying to reduce the amount of lectin in our food. And I agree. So reducing nightshades has proven and shown to be very effective for psoriasis. So reducing those, and those are going to be your eggplants, your tomatoes, things like that. And if you are going to eat them, at least steam them and cook them and break them down so your body can get rid of them. And I wanted to read this. So those are my 5 things. And then I wanted to read this here, and I'm not going to add any more foods, don't worry. But this is an article from, this is from published online, Dermatology Therapy, okay? And this is June 7th, 2017, Dietary Behaviors in Psoriasis, Patients Reported Outcomes from a U.S. National Survey. And it's kind of cool to look at because, you know, a lot of times when I shoot these videos, I'll get people, you know, just kind of going crazy about it. But the research is out, and this is just one of them. And I hate when people say the science is out, by the way, but I just said it. But it really is, and this is just one of many studies that show this. There's a total of 1,206 psoriasis patients in this survey. And I know it's a survey, so it's not a perfect study, but we can learn from it. It said the percentage of patients reporting skin improvement was greatest after, oh, I didn't add this on here. Dang it, I'm gonna give you a bonus, number 6. Maybe I do 6 things you need to remove: alcohol. But that has gluten in it most of the time, or some sort of brewer's yeast, which most people are allergic to anyway. So yeah, reducing alcohol had the biggest benefit for most people, okay? So that's 53.8% of people that reduced alcohol had their psoriasis improve. Gluten was right behind it with 53.4%. So the 2 biggest things you could do is take out alcohol and take out gluten, okay? Nightshades was 52.1%. And after adding fish oil, omega-3s, right? So if you go to the videos on what supplements you should take, I talk about cod liver oil and different fish oils that are amazing for psoriasis. 44.6, vegetables, people that added vegetables in on their diet It doesn't, I guess, non-nightshade vegetables, 42.5% improvement, and then oral vitamin D. And I also talked about one of the best supplements for psoriasis is vitamin D3 with K2, magnesium, and vitamin A in there. And it helps your body because with the autoimmune response, you're almost always depleted in vitamin D. Sometimes it's because you don't get enough. Sometimes it's because your vitamin D receptors are actually being blocked and aren't accepting that vitamin D. All right, it says specific diets with the most patients reporting a favorable skin response was the Picano diet. And that is, Dr. Picano created this diet. The one thing I will say on here, to not make this video too long, about Dr. Picano's diet is he says stay away from red meat. I disagree with that, and the reason he says stay away from red meat, or at least they've shown, is because it increases your arachidonic acid, which they say can do that, can cause problems, and shown to cause problems with psoriasis. But that's talking about conventional red meat, okay? And this is very important that grass-fed versus conventional red meat is a big difference in the fat ratio, which is what arachidonic acid is. So if you're eating conventional red meat, I 100% agree, get it out. But grass-fed free-range organic red meat is actually very beneficial for your health. Actually add some liver in and get good vitamin A levels, things like that, and choline, and all these things actually are very effective for helping with psoriasis. So I'm gonna encourage you, you probably read Dr. Picano's book on that. I would say keep the good meat in, and even next, I think he says take away eggs as well. And again, that's conventional eggs. Duck eggs, I'm gonna have a video on duck eggs versus chicken eggs, but duck eggs have a very good impact on selenium levels, which we know is very important in psoriasis, and vitamin D3, which is very important in psoriasis, and other huge benefits with omega-3 fatty acids in those duck eggs. So I'm gonna encourage you the opposite on those two things of his diet. Increase your good grass-fed free-range organic beefs, and increase your things like grass-fed or free-range ducks. I don't usually do chicken eggs because most people tend to have a sensitivity or allergy to those eggs based on the testing that I've done. Cool. Hey guys, I hope that was effective for you. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you can continue to get the videos that we're putting out. If you want to be a part of our groups, go into the descriptions below, hit the links to go to get in our Facebook groups. Go watch or listen to the ebook, read the ebook, whatever you do with books, I don't know. Listen to the ebook. You guys know what to do. All right, thanks for watching. Comment, share your thoughts with us, because I love just seeing the stuff that you do, and I try to respond to every single comment that we get. You guys have an awesome day. We'll talk to you next time.